Before the break, we met John Bryant, who grew up on the rough streets of Compton, California, and turned challenge into triumph, becoming a millionaire by making real estate deals. But what if this is the only real estate you know? These are the Robert Taylor homes, a place most kids can only imagine getting out of by rapping, golfing, blinging, or dying. Not Farrah Gray. Farrah Gray was a millionaire by the time he was 14. What clicked in your head as a child that says, I want to create something that I can make money with?
Being broke. Poverty will do it to you. When I say poor, most people think, okay, well, you at least had furniture, you at least had a car. No, we slept on the floor with the rats and with the roaches.
But Farrah didn't need much to get started. Using his red lunchbox as a briefcase and his brother's clip-on tie, Farrah started his own business. It was a 6-year-old's version of real estate. Farrah went into business selling rocks. No, literally, rocks. He took rocks he found in the projects, painted them, and sold them door to door to his neighbors.
And I would knock on people's doors. Hello, my name is Farrah Gray, and nice to meet you. Would you like to buy this? And people were looking at me like, isn't that the rock that was in front of my door? I'm like, yeah, but it's different now. It can be used as paperweights, and it can also be door stoppers. So I made $50.
How do you create a vision to sell that, either in or outside of a community where other people are broke too?
I was well introduced very early to rejection. When I went out with those rocks, some people didn't think that was cool. They had no need for it. People slammed the door on me, cussed me out, all kind of stuff. But I just made a few dollars on that door. And then I said, well, let me go to this one. I made some money there, but the person in between cussed me out. So, you know, you kind of get a chance to see very early that not everybody's going to tell you no.
I don't know if anybody's told no more than this generation. No, you're not going to be successful. No, you can't have no books in your school. No, you can't have any computers. No, you're not going to make it outside of your community. So what was it for you that allowed you to see beyond the first 25 no's to a potential yes?
What I learned very early was you expect people to say no. It's easy to say no. So to me, I was like, no, okay, click, no, click. But I continued to persevere because I learned that we should never fear rejection and everything we want is on the other side of fear. I say you challenge fear. You push yourself. Every time you get nervous or fear something, you get a little bit closer to it. You do it. And then you look back like, wow, it wasn't that bad.
Surrounded by despair while growing up here, Farrah had a couple of things in his favor. He had a quick mind, he had the determination of someone who spent his life hungry, and even by the first grade, no matter what happened around him, Farrah believed he had a future, and he announced that future to the world.
I cut some business cards out of cardboard, and I called myself the 21st Century CEO is what I wrote on my card. So I gave this one guy my business card. I thought, so my name is Farrah Gray. You know, nice to meet you.
I didn't even think about it as being cardboard. It was his card. This was his presentation.
He said, well, here's my card. He said, my name is Roy Towler, and I have a think tank called Ideators, and we come up with business solutions and strategies for the government and for corporations. So what is it that you do, young man? I was like, I don't know. I said, this got a nice business card. I don't do all that. So he was like, okay. So he said, I can see you want to go into business, real business. I said, yes. He said, you have friends that want to go into business. I said, yes.
So I said to him, I said, you know, why don't you get your friends together and start a business club?
So I created a club called Unique, which is the Urban Neighborhood Economic Enterprise Club.
We were the type of kids that did not waste time and did not waste energy on nonsense. I mean, although we were all young, him being even younger, he just made everything seem like nothing was impossible. So it was like, no, don't worry about it. If I can do this, you can do that. And so who wants to be stood up by an 8-year-old?
15 of my friends, all from the inner city, all poor. And I said, who wants to be rich?
Farrah knew that people weren't buying his rocks because people needed rocks. They were buying a piece of this cute little kid. So he stayed with the kid strategy.
And as our ideas grew, adults and investors saw our company as one that was housing some of the most revolutionized and revolutionary ideas that they were like, wow, you know, it's interesting. So we want to invest.
Farrah really got the attention of some adults with money when he started Far Out Foods, a company he marketed as youth-owned and operated. He sold some syrup, but most importantly, he sold the company. He was 14 and now a millionaire. No ball, no mic, no police.
Unfortunately, in the inner city, in the projects, many of us are making transactions at various different ages, but they're not always positive. Buying wholesale, selling retail, you know, even at 6 years old. But I said that I would sling another kind of rock.
If it was a basic economic issue,
Yeah.
why sling, you know, $2 rocks instead of $20 rocks?
Because at the end of the day, it's not righteous.
One of the most important things that we have to do in terms of our own financial literacy as African Americans is to educate ourselves so that we can get past some of the myths of money in America. The street-level drug dealer doesn't make as much money as somebody who puts burger at a fast food restaurant. Now, that's not the popular perception of how much money you can make in the drug trade. And you have a lot of young people saying, I gotta make my money, and if that's how I gotta get my hustle on, I'm gonna do that.
A lot of kids want to take the quick way out, you know, and sell drugs.
If you make so much money dealing drugs on the street, if that's such a great road to riches, why do street dealers are still living at their mother's house?
At 20, Farrah isn't staying at his mother's house. He's bought his mother. He travels the country telling people how to start their own business and selling his book brilliantly. Sales are good. We caught up with him in Delaware.
But I knew that there was more to life than just poverty.
And in Kansas City.
The first step to becoming a millionaire was believing in myself.
These days, Farrah is selling knowledge. He talks about managing your money, and he talks about his own story.
Nice meeting you, man.
Folks from all over the country are lining up to get a piece of the kid with a bright future, to get a piece of hope.